that struck me as well coming into land at Singapore is the sheer size, the amount of boats that are waiting to dock at this ultra-modern, very clean, friendly city that spans from horizon to horizon is huge. We drove for about 20 minutes before we saw a building that needed paint. It's a very clean city. That building was where we stayed the night before we had to get up early in the morning to go to Singapore Zoo to go and have breakfast with the orangutans. Orang meaning person, hutang meaning forest, so they're the people of the forest. A lot of the toilets at Singapore Zoo and around Singapore more generally, instead of walls they have gardens, which is pretty cool. I didn't take any photos because that would be weird, but Jill did. The thing that Abby remembered most and liked about it was the playful cheeky elephants. They were very cool, and the tigers, they were white tigers, they were quite rare. They were really cool and playful as well. The next stop on our list was Sentosa Island, which is the most southern point of Southeast Asia. The merlion is the statue that stands above us there, and mer, it means of the sea, and lion translates in Sanskrit as singer. So Singapore used the merlion as their emblem of sorts. Sentosa is very much a luxury resort island. The only people that I saw that I noticed there were tourists, tourism staff and fairies. One thing that I would really recommend if you're going into Singapore, where we spent our last night, is to go to the garden show at night. It's absolutely amazing, it's free, and it's really quite spectacular. As you fly into the city of Kuching on the island of Borneo, you notice this golden orange squeezer shaped building. It's the State Legislative Council in the middle of the city, which is surrounded by mountains. Kuching actually means cat, so around the city you'll notice cat statues. We stayed in an old shop house in Chinatown, which was just one large room above a shop. It was quite comfortable. We got to do a bit of exploring of Kuching city before we headed with our friend Jason out to a place where you can see orangutans in the wild. It's one thing to see them in the zoo, but to see them free in the wild is really quite special. After the orangutans, we went to the cat museum at Kuching, everything cat, before heading out to Gunung Gading, where we went in search of the world's largest flower, Rafflesia. Along the way we saw a butterfly laying eggs, 2, 3, 4 eggs, and we weren't expecting to see the voodoo lily, which is the world's tallest flower. To give you some idea of scale, Jason is 7 foot tall, so it's quite a tall flower. But we weren't there for that, we were there in search of Rafflesia, which flowers once every 7 years and only for 5 days, and just happened to be flowering when we were there. After Rafflesia we went out for lunch, where we had local clams that are collected from the river, and billen, which is a local fern collected in the forest. They were delicious. Then it was off to Barco National Park. The only way to get to Barco National Park was via a boat, and then it's really quite remote. We were there in search of monkeys. These are the silverleaf langens. They're young, orange, and these are the proboscis monkeys. They're really large and quite strong. They're also referred to as Orang Berlander, which translates as Dutchman. we saw lots of them. We could have stayed there for a long time with the proboscis monkeys. And the third sort of monkey that are the macaques, that are more common. We thought it was a pit viper, commonly called a pit viper. We stopped at a little pool, and inside the pool we saw a tortoise and a turtle and hundreds of little fish. We met up with some local people, Colin and Trudy, and their two kids, Ijo and Tatiana. They took us out to a night market and generously took us back to their apartment, from where we could see our next destination. In Permai National Park, we stayed in a tree house that sat in the top of the canopy of a rainforest. It was absolutely teeming with wildlife, lots and lots of creatures and insects, and every afternoon between 3 and 5, or most afternoons, a troop of silver-langed monkeys would come through, just feeding on the leaves and watching the sunset. We took a boat ride from Permai late afternoon, where we saw some Irrawaddy dolphins. We didn't get very many good photos, they only surface very briefly. We also saw another large family of proboscis monkeys, saltwater crocodiles, and the thing that Abby liked the most was the glowworms, or the fireflies. They were absolutely brilliant, pitch black in the mangrove swamp. The fireflies just light up the trees like Christmas trees. It's really quite amazing.